The budget to make The Rise of Skywalker approaches $600 million. What the fuck? The last film in the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy was The Rise of Skywalker, a film that doesn't get anywhere near the hate it deserves.
Rey Skywalker.
Yes, The Last Jedi broke all our hearts and destroyed the Star Wars franchise, but The Last Jedi is hated because of the creative decisions made. The Rise of Skywalker is just awful filmmaking. You could say Last Jedi feels like it hates its fans. With The Rise of Skywalker, that hates cinema, because that film is easily one of the worst films I've ever had to fucking sit through. The look, the performances, the story, and the bloody editing. All of it a disgrace. Anyway, Forbes just reported that Disney has revealed the final budget, well, we think it's the final, for The Rise of Skywalker. Disney has today revealed that the total cost of the 2019 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker came to, man, so many dollars, $593.7 million. Make it the third most expensive movie in history. The third most. So what are the two above it? Well, I can't quite work that out. If you look at the films unadjusted for inflation, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is at the lead, followed by a couple of Jurassic Park movies and then The Force Awakens. And then if you go to the list for adjusted for inflation, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is still in at number one. Even going through older films that are famous for being expensive and adjusting for inflation, none of them come close to The Rise of Skywalker. So that film's now in first place as the most expensive film ever made. I tell you, if you do want to laugh, go through the list of most expensive films, because there is so much fucking garbage in there. I'm surprised Hollywood still exists. But it also puts The Rise of Skywalker to shame, because there's films on there you think would be way more expensive to make come in under its budget.
I know.
Now, looking at the film and that $600 million budget, you can actually see where the money was wasted. Unlike something like The Acolyte that was $230 million, where the whole time you're watching it thinking, where the fuck did that money go? Because that show looked like arse. Not that The Rise of Skywalker looks especially good, it's just that you know they went to every location and built huge sets. All those locations, all those sets, all those people, all the CGI, all the horses running on the outside of spacecraft. Every dollar is up there on the screen. All that money spent so they could deliver such classic lines as, "They fly now," and "Somehow Palpatine returned."
Somehow Palpatine returned. They fly now!
Or Oscar Isaac. He got to deliver two of the most hated lines in the history of cinema. The article goes on to say that the filings are a goldmine of financial information as they reveal whether the movie costs more or less than the studio originally budgeted for. Surely they didn't budget for more than $600 million. That's over $500 million, my friends. But no, remarkably, despite its staggering cost, The Rise of Skywalker came in under budget, and there's no doubt about that. Strange line. Looks like Forbes is getting a bit of the AI writing in. The filings for the production company behind The Rise of Skywalker state that by March 2019, 1 month after filming wrapped, the movie was in line with the budget. However, post-production costs less than expected, and by the end of the year, less than 2 weeks after the movie debuted, it was below the production budget. Less than 2 weeks after the movie debuted. What the hell does that mean? I'm positive they're getting AI to write these articles. Although the reason for this isn't certain, it coincided with the editing of the movie. Now, let's just stop here for a minute. The editing is one of the biggest problems with that fucking movie. Well, besides the story and everything else. That thing jumps around like someone with Tourette's giving a speech at a wedding.
Well, fuck it.
Although the reason for this isn't certain, it coincided with the editing of the movie, which took less time than usual. Well, we'd never guess, would we? This came to light in an interview on the Rough Cut podcast with the Rise of Skywalker's editor, Marion Brandon, who admitted that the later stages of the production schedule were accelerated, which affected everything. Did it? She estimated that the crew had 3 months less to work on The Rise of Skywalker than The Force Awakens. The reason being, Disney insisted on sticking with the movie's December 2019 release date, rather than delaying it, which would have increased the post-production time and therefore the cost. I swear to God, this article is written by a moron for morons. You see, if people work on something longer, it costs more. Thanks for the insight, Forbes. But then the article has one of my favourite parts. Reshoots are often planned into the budget, but J.J. Abrams, director of The Rise of Skywalker, told Entertainment Weekly that the movie ended up needing fewer than The Force Awakens. He explained that because The Force Awakens was the first movie in Disney's Star Wars series, and this is a quote, "We didn't know if these characters would work, if the actors would be able to carry a Star Wars movie. There are a lot of things we didn't know. On The Rise of Skywalker, we knew who and what worked." JJ is a moron. This shows shows how much confidence they had in the script, because they didn't know if the characters were going to work until they saw the actors acting it out. Just remember when you're sitting at home wondering how you're going to pay your phone bill, that these people like J.J. Abrams, get paid millions of dollars to do what they do. And they're idiots. Then the Forbes article just starts going off the rails. The cast of The Rise of Skywalker reads like a roll call for the Oscars. Does it? It reunited Mark Hamill and the late Carrie Fisher. We won't mention that she was dead by then. With Ian McDiarmid, who played their adversary, the Evil Emperor, in the original Star Wars movies nearly 40 years earlier. In The Rise of Skywalker, he teams up with Adam Driver's Kylo Ren to take on the remnants of the Resistance, with Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac in the leading roles. Yes, a real roll call for the Oscars. Mark Hamill, who was known for one role his whole career, Carrie Fisher, who at least had a career, Ian McDiarmid, who's not exactly a household name outside of Star Wars. I'll give it to Adam Driver and Oscar Isaac that they could win an Oscar. But Daisy Ridley and John Boyega? No. But the idiot journalism continues. Here they go on to explain how money and labour works. Because you see, if you pay for more labour, it costs you more money. Isn't that insightful? For Disney, the reduced reshoots and the accelerated post-production process was a force for good. Love those force puns. But listen up now, because you see, if the movie had cost more to make, it would have reduced the studio's profits. Thanks, Forbes. Calculating that requires knowledge of the amount Disney spent on the movie and the amount it generated from it. Why do I feel like this is a economics class for people who are trying to learn the English language? But anyway, let's continue. Disney banked a $103.8 million reimbursement from The Rise of Skywalker, reducing its net spending on the picture to $489.9 million. Its returns largely come from its share of the movie's $1.077 billion box office takings. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The thing is, they don't get it all. They've got to share that. According to the studios, theatres keep 49% of the takings on average. This research lends weight to the widely established 50-50 split, which would give Disney $538.5 million from The Rise of Skywalker and a $48.6 million profit at the box office. Now, $48 million isn't much of a take-home for a $600 million bet, but they didn't make $48.6 million, did they? Because this hasn't accounted for the marketing, which to its credit, the article mentions, though they do try and pretend that it's not part of the overall costs. This casts a cloud of uncertainty over the movie's overall bottom line, even though it made a profit at the box office. It didn't. It didn't make a profit at the box office because marketing is added on before the film's even bloody released. It used to be said that studios would spend the same amount on marketing as they did on the production, but with a film coming in at $600 million, I doubt they spent that much on marketing. But even if we are super conservative and say they spent $100 million on marketing, that wipes out their $48.6 million profit by a long shot. That puts them $50 million in the red. But then the article pretends they're going to recoup some of that money through streaming and DVD and Blu-ray sales. $50 million, and that's a conservative figure, just to break even. That's a hell of a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays, things people aren't even buying anymore. And as for the streaming, Disney has their own streaming service, which costs them money. Disney Plus has lost $11 billion since it was launched in 2020. So how is putting a film that's already lost your money on your own streaming service that's losing money going to turn into a profit? Now, what else could we have done with that $600 million? Primitive War recently came out with a reported budget of $7 to $8 million. That film was way more entertaining than The Rise of Skywalker. With that $600 million, we could have made 85 and a half Primitive War movies. 85! And that's the bloody problem. They spend way too much money on this crap. If we look back in time to the peak of movie making, you had films like RoboCop made for $13.7 million in 1987. That's around $36 million in today's money. Commando had a $10 million budget in 85, which is around $26 million today. Ghostbusters went all out with a $30 million budget in 1984, which is around $90 million today. And on the same day that came out, Gremlins came out with an $11 million budget, which is around $34 million. At $600 million, we could give $30 million to 20 different filmmakers and get 20 different bloody films to watch. Yes, they won't all be good, but some could be great. The trouble is, Hollywood has taught a whole generation that they should value effects over story and creativity. The new cinema goers are more likely to rave about how good the pretty colours look, rather than care if a story makes any bloody sense. Bitch! Look at what's currently playing. So anyway, goodbye $600 million. Disney's never seen that again. Only Disney could have a film bring in $1 billion at the cinema and still not make a profit. I think it's about time we just admit that Hollywood, especially Disney, just a massive money laundering scheme. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, before I get sued, I'll catch you on the next video.